okay, I get it. I'm overqualified to sit in that seat. I know why we've been missing the mark. And I'm the one that's been on the ground with the rest of my homies and friends that have been organizing to move the needle an inch.
Hello, I'm Guido and
And I'm Alexandra Rojas.
She's finally here, folks. Welcome to Bloc Party, a show about the fight for the soul of the Democratic Party. Today, we are joined by a soldier who's been in the trenches of that fight since she was a super volunteer for Bernie Sanders. Justice Democrats Executive Director, Alexandra Rojas. Alex, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Long-time listener, first-time host. I'm excited to get to be a part of an extremely special podcast episode and give folks a sneak peek at what we're doing.
Very special. Like one of the most special group chats, you know? A group chat you get invited to and you're like, wow, I gotta be on my best behavior. Because we have a Nashville native, a graduate of Tennessee State University.
Hey!
Founder and co-director of the grassroots community organization Stand Up Nashville.
Hey!
Odessa Kelly.
Good morning.
Good morning. Welcome to Bloc Party. Odessa, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
You know, I'm just watching your campaign take off, wondering how you're feeling.
I'm feeling everything, so it's hard to put it into one word. I am humbled, excited, tired, surprised, charged, ready, all those things.
It's an intense week. Odessa, before we get to you, Alex, I want to talk about the district. Tennessee's 5th district includes all of Nashville, one of only 2 Democratic districts in Tennessee, currently repped by Jim Cooper. Now, I know that Odessa grew up in the South. People are Nashville nice. She might keep it classy. But Alex, you drove all the way to Nashville just to meet a challenger to this guy. So you got some beef? Do you want to lay it out up front?
Definitely. Representative Jim Cooper, just to go into scratch the surface, has been in office for 4 decades. He's a leading member of the Blue Dog Coalition. He's one of the wealthiest members of Congress who has taken hundreds of thousands of dollars from corporate PACs, representing weapon manufacturers, real estate developers. Odessa's going to get into how those entities in particular have completely changed Nashville for the worse.
We're a year away from primary elections in Tennessee, but longtime Congressman Jim Cooper already has a challenger. Today, East Nashville's Odessa Kelly announced she'll run against him in the Democratic primary.
And throughout his entire career, he has taken votes and organized his colleagues, right, to support cuts to Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare.
That's right.
So if we look at, as recently as 2012, he introduced a budget that cut Medicare and Social Security.
That was during the grand bargain fight in the Obama administration.
That's
where
right.
Where Republicans was like, let's make a deal. And Democrats and progressives were like, well, we're not putting Social Security cuts on the table. And Jim Cooper was like, I am. Let's do it.
Pretty much.
Back in 2009, he voted against President Obama's recovery package following the Great Recession and teamed up with Republicans to do that. So this is not new for him. He's ideologically committed to this position. To throw it even more far back, right? President Bill Clinton's plan that proposed an alternative health care to Hillary care.
Alex is like, don't make me go through all the receipts right now.
His daddy was the governor. His brother just got recently elected.
Was that Prentice Cooper?
That was Prentice, yes.
Ain't how you say it. He from the South. You say Prentice.
Odessa's just quiet, and then she's like,
Prentice Cooper.
Prentice. I said it wrong. I need to be respectful. My point is that there's a lot of financial and political wealth that has come from the Cooper family and that has kept them in power for over 4 decades. Nashville's 2 highest offices, right, are held by 2 brothers that come from the same ultra-wealthy family with very little ties to everyday people.
Exactly.
So I'm super excited for folks on the pod to get to know Odessa and all of the incredible work she's been doing.
Odessa, you told me that folks in the South have been polite.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel like folks are responding since the launch?
People are excited. People want to be inspired, right? People in Nashville are just the same as anywhere across the country. How you get something done is just as important as what you're getting done, and people want to feel as though they're a part of it, especially for Black people, minority communities, people of color. We always get that other label. And we're always having to prove whether we're part of the American fabric or not, you know. So people are starting to understand that you are just as American as anyone else. This is your country, and this is going to be our race. You know, I've been overwhelmed by the support, not only here, but across the nation, you know. Yeah, this is going to be a historic campaign. We're going to run it in a bold way, and we're running it for us.
Odessa, you mentioned you were an athlete. I mean, not just an athlete. You played college ball at TSU.
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 I bleed blue.
I know you told me that, like, 22-year-old Odessa is still like, I'm going to the WNBA.
Right.
How does Odessa get to be 22, TSU graduate, ready to go to the WNBA?
Sure. I'm going to tell you now, I was never thinking about this when I was young. I grew up in East Nashville, what we called out east. Nashville is a town where a lot of black people repopulated here from other places in the South, like Alabama, Arkansas, Mississippi, you know, for protection. People were getting lynched. And that's why a lot of families came here. It was a federal stronghold. You could get jobs. They had protections around them. And I grew up in East Nashville. And a lot of people, black people, moved to East Nashville when they ran an interstate through North Nashville, you know, and pushed a lot of people out and destroyed that community. Well, not destroyed, but they disconnected a lot of it anyway.
So your parents migrated from the South to Nashville and moved to North Nashville, and then a highway came through and you moved out east.
Yeah, my grandparents did. My mother's from Mississippi. My father is a Nashville native. He's from North Nashville, you know. But yeah, and yeah, a lot of people moved to East Nashville, became a predominantly black community. I went to the public school system. When I was 7 years old, I wanted to be a Mario Kart driver. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to drive the Yoshi-mobile for the rest of my life. That's what I wanted to do, you know.
Wait, what were you... Was that like N64 Mario Kart?
Nah, youngin', we're talking about the real Nintendo classic.
Oh my God! It was not like that
Nintendo.
super difficult, like that 8-bit, and you were like, I'm so good at. That's incredible. Okay, keep
Yeah,
going.
no, yeah, it was the Super Nintendo, I believe, when Mario Kart came out. You know, but no, I had no idea of doing this. I'm like any other kid in the hood. You know, everything that was fed and pumped to us is like, how do you make it out? You know, and that was being an entertainer, athlete, or, you know, something along those lines. So, yeah, went through the public school system, chose to stay in the public school system as opposed to being in the streets, you know, which means I got really involved in extracurricular activities. And I also grew up in the community centers. In Nashville, you know, every hood had a community center, if not 2 or 3. You know, and my dad worked for the community centers, and yeah, that's why I learned a lot of stuff, from basketball skills to playing pool to swimming, all those different type of things. A lot of childhood friends there. Growing up through that, I became a really good basketball player.
Some folks may have seen your launch video, which starts with this character, Mr. Kelly.
Poverty will rob you of your childhood. But at our community center in East Nashville, we got to be kids. Thanks to Mr. Kelly. The kids called him that. They loved him, but I called him Dad. Yeah, definitely. My dad is a staple, especially in the black community in Nashville. He has the utmost respect of everyone that I know, including me. My parents have been married for 53 years, about to be 54. God, that's a long time. Anyway, I mean, that's what's up. It worked, you know, it worked for them. But yeah, you know, my dad was a civil servant. You know, he worked a lot of odd-end jobs. He was a part of the civil rights movement. He was out in the streets, you know, when all those things were happening. Nashville is one of the birthplaces of the civil rights movement. It went down in this city, you know, and a lot of people paid prices for it. And so a lot of strong bonds came out of his class and his generation, the old Pearl High, you know. That was the black high school that majority of black people in Nashville went to. But from that, he got a job with Metro Parks and Recreation, and his career took off from that point. My mom went to Meharry Medical College, the oldest black medical college in the country, and she became a nurse. And they still had to work check to check and scrapped really hard to make ends meet for me, my brother, and my sister, you know. It's a crazy thing. I didn't even know that I was in like a working class neighborhood because my parents gave us everything that we could possibly want. I think I was in 8th grade when I went to a birthday party with a friend in Bellevue, and I was like, what the hell? Like, why is your walk-in closet the size of my house? And I think that's when it really opened up to me, that there were different classes of people. Shout out to my mom and dad for giving us everything to where I didn't even know that was a thing.
And before you went to TSU, your dad actually went to TSU while he was raising you.
Mm-hmm.
Could you tell us the story of seeing your dad graduate?
I remember being there and just being excited because I remember all the nights before when my dad would be studying and I would be learning the exact same thing that he was learning. I remember that's when he had just bought, he said we had a computer before that. I don't remember it. I just remember, y'all remember those ugly IBMs that had the back on them that was like orange or purple or, he would just let me type on that, while he was doing his work. And I think that's why I'm really good at having conversations and learning orally, because he would just speak to me everything that he was learning or he was studying or seeing that was wrong, because my dad already had probably 25 or 30 years of real life experience,
Wow.
as he was going through and studying. So it was a really good day, him graduating. I think I was 8 or 9 when that happened. And I remember arguing with my mama that day because I didn't want to put on no dress, first of all. So to go to the graduation or whatever, But anyway, I think that solidified in that moment that I knew I was going to do the exact same thing. It never became a doubt after that.
That's a good segue into how you ended up following your dad's footsteps and working in Parks and Recreation as well.
As Guido has mentioned, I went to Tennessee State University. I was an athlete, back in the days when I had a six-pack. It was wonderful,
Wow.
Yeah, I wanted to hoop. I was waiting.
Flex on him.
Yeah. I was waiting on, a WNBA or NBA. I didn't care. Either one to call me, So there were a couple of players in the NBA. I'm like,
You're
suck.
like, Grizzlies? Grizzlies, give me a
you
call.
Can call
Come
me.
on now.
Yeah, come on, bring your girl on. So, I'm doing what any typical 22, 23-year-old was doing. I'm still trying to figure things out, and I definitely was not ready to be an adult. So on my 23rd birthday, my dad probably did the best thing that ever could have happened in my life. For my birthday, he gave me a pair of scissors and an application, and he told me to cut up my credit cards and to get a job. That is literally what he told me, and then 2 days before my 24th birthday, March 10th, 2006, I got hired on for Metro Parks and Recreation. And even then, I didn't think it was going to be a career thing. I'm like on some Pinky in the Brain type stuff. Like, okay, this is going to keep them off my back while I figure out how to take over the world, But then life happens, right? So I became a very young parent, so here I am a year later, 25, with 2 kids and really starting to understand, okay, I have to grow up. As kids do it to you, like they really give you a change of perspective and a learning curve of like maturity that sometimes you're not ready for it. So HBCUs, homecoming is a thing. It goes down. I was already the type to shut the club down. Like, if it closed at 2, I'm in there at 2, and, and then hanging out afterwards. It's just, I remember having babies in the house, and it's like, damn, I can't go. I have to be responsible now, and not minding it, So,
And
like,
not minding it.
yeah, falling in love with kids is probably the best thing that ever happened to me as well. It gave me the maturity that I needed to really pay more attention to my career, because at that point I was like, okay, like I got bills to pay. I want these kids to have the best future they possibly can have. How do you do that? And that's when I really started to pay attention that, I wanted to be a better civil servant and really invest in my own career and, paying it forward. So with that, that's when I started noticing things. I love my job. I'm literally paid to play. That's what I'm paid to do. People are giving me a paycheck to go beat your kid in checkers. Okay, we can do this.
Okay, but also beat your kid in basketball.
Yeah.
You had a six-pack pretty recently.
Yeah, it wasn't, yeah.
Sidebar, did you dunk on the kids? Were you like... You're like, wow, posterized.
Nah, I could grab the rim, but I always got hung. I could never dunk, but I would slap the boards on you in a second, like, and not just kids, like grown men too. I would try to rip all the manhood you had from you. So, but yeah.
That's great. I love it.
It wasn't just kids too. It was just other people, leisure services is an important part of government services here. Like, people need to have a place they can de-stress. That's what Parks does. So even with our senior community, I loved it as well. That's how I learned how to play cutthroat spades. If you've never played cutthroat spades with a 70-year-old senior, like, that's how you learn. And they do not play, because every old black man on earth got a switchblade ready for you. So you do not renege.
Okay, so it sounds like a dream job. Just stay at Metro Parks.
Exactly.
Forever. That's what your dad did.
Yeah, that's exactly what was happening, But what was also happening is that Nashville was growing exponentially. We were one of the fastest growing cities in the nation. We were called the ITS.
What time frame, real quick, is this happening?
Okay, so I started Parks in 2006. The growth of Nashville, I came home from college and it was white women walking dogs and stuff up and down my street. I knew gentrification or something was happening different then, I would say between 2010 to now is when it really started to boom. And every place you turn, you saw like houses going down, tall and skitties going up, and just cranes in the sky in Nashville. More and more people were moving here, and it was making it harder and more expensive to live here. I was starting to grapple with the point of, would I ever be able to like buy a home in the city that I grew up in, because it was so expensive. I would do like everybody else, like, okay, well, I'm going to get on this Dave Ramsey plan and eat beans and rice. But, like, that's craziness when you really think about it. It's like, okay, there's no possible way that I can do this when I'm only getting a 20 cents raise every other year. And that's if the city has the way to pay it. So I was, just in here. I got promoted to full-time. And then all of a sudden in 2008, we went through the recession. And all of a sudden, I got rolled back to 19 hours. I was just a 19-hour employee. I stayed a 19-hour employee until 2010, okay? 2010, we had a massive flood in the city of Nashville, okay? So I got to take another job, and I still didn't get back to full-time. I got 30 hours. So I was a 30 hours employee. That means you don't accumulate sick time, vacation, any of that type of stuff, right? And I was a 30-hour employee. And in that same time, I decided, like, okay, I'm going to go back to school and get my master's degree. And that way I could be competitive to get a management job. I did that 2014. I got promoted, and I went to Napier. And I did not want to go to Napier because before that, I've been working in the brand new community centers that had, like, the little stroller clubs, had women that bring you, like, Starbucks in the morning. It was really nice. And I'm about to go to Napier, which is in the hood. It's just like where I grew up. But you never know what God has in store for you. It was the best thing that happened to me. I was good at my job. I was really, really good at it. I was really good at connecting people, making sure that people left happier than when they entered the building. And
I could see that. I'm like picturing it right now.
We had a good time. When I went over to Napier, I said, we're going to win championships. And that's exactly what we did. Shout out to all my basketball teams and my flag football teams, and even to my Lego club, because we even won the regional library championship for the Legos in the summer. We built some dope things. We had a really good time. Me going to Napier, it was just a reality check. Some of the best people I've ever met in my life. These people, like everyone else, wants to live the American dream, but they have all these barriers in front of them. And that's what pushed me into doing social justice work. And all of this stems from me being a civil servant in Metro Parks and Recreation. Many of those kids who played on all those teams, great kids, Several of them, I ended up having to, like, defend their character in court, because they made bad decisions. These are the kids who, ended up doing silly things or stupid things because they were just trying to help their mama pay rent, and now all of a sudden I see them getting titled or labeled as thugs, I'm seeing families get torn apart because they can't afford rent. I'm seeing families get torn apart because they work in 2 or 3 jobs. And now all of a sudden they're deemed not good parents because they never at home. I'm like, well, it's because they have to work, and no person should have to work 2 or 3 jobs just to make ends meet. So a kid that I was very close with, he died in my arms, and I was frustrated. I was already frustrated. That summer, I think I had five kids and one young adult who I was very close with. All of them died in that summer, and all of it was unnecessary, and all of it came from issues that should have never happened. I'm not taking accountability away for people making bad choices, but we are complicit in it. People in desperate situations make bad choices. You know, when I don't wash my clothes, I wear something ugly because I put myself in a desperate situation. I can't walk outdoors naked. You know, it's the same thing.
So when did you become a member of SEIU, and then how did you end up going into NOAA? Because that was sort of, right, the impetus of organizing for you.
Yeah, it was. You know, during the time of, let's see, in 2012, you had Trayvon Martin happen. Yeah. And that was a big point and moment in my life, you know, because there was a lot of frustration and anger, of course, across the nation. You know, it reminded me, I think it reminded a lot of Black people, like, this type of stuff happens.
Under every kind of leadership.
Under every type of leadership. And how do we escape this? You know, how do we fix this? In 2015, now I'm from the South. We don't do cold well in the South at all. We don't have no snow plows.
She puts the heat on, and it's hot.
Yes, it's hot. You know, we don't do cold whatsoever. But we had like a 3-day stint where it was just like the biggest ice freeze we ever had. Like, y'all would probably laugh at it if you're from the North, but down here, you know, we couldn't handle it. Guido, Alex, I'm telling you, being 3 days in the house, I had stepped on my last Lego. I don't know if you've ever stepped on a Lego.
I have.
With your bare feet.
Yeah.
It is the worst feeling on earth. So before I snapped, I just told everybody, get your coats on, we gotta leave. And I had this flyer on my table for this event called The Tale of Two Cities. It was a NOAA event, and NOAA stands for Nashville Organized for Action and Hope. And I went to this event and it changed my life. The 3 things that they were really talking about were things that I was facing and struggling with every day. The lack of housing in the city. Here I am, a person that has a master's degree. You know, I'm feeling what Kanye is saying in that moment. You can't eat all these books, you know, and my debt is going to be higher than any paycheck that I would ever get in Metro Parks, you know. Not a shot, you know, that's not a knock against Metro Parks. It's just a knock against how the system is built. The second thing they were talking about is jobs, work training, and people being underpaid. You know, I had to get a master's degree, y'all. This is a professional career service, you know, but I'm severely underpaid for the work that I'm doing.
You had to go back to school because you had already gone to school to get a degree just to be able to get promoted at your part-time job.
You feel me on that? Yeah, you know. And then the third thing that they were talking about is the school-to-prison pipeline, or just the criminal justice system and how that correlates with education. Here I am in Napier Community Center. If y'all don't know, Nashville is the headquarters of Core Civic, you know, and they're the one to build all these private prisons. When I first got over to Napier, there was these 3 or 4 well-dressed, smiling white men that came over and hanging out and just talking with the kids. I'm still learning it or whatever. And it took the principal at the elementary school to come over and tell me, she was like, they work for Core Civic. They ain't here talking to the kids because they're trying to figure out how many more jails they need to build. Like, it still does something to my stomach right now every time I think about that moment, you know? Like, these kids are bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, and ready to take on the world, yet someone is marginalizing their future. Like, that's not, no. Like, no. Oh, now I see what systemic racism and institutional racism looks like, you know? And so I just kept going back to the NOAA meetings time and time again. NOAA especially me because I grew up in the church. Like, my mama drugged me every Sunday to church. She was part of church. She went to prayer studies on Monday. She went to the usher board meeting on Tuesday. We had Bible study on Wednesday. By the time I got to high school and college, I'm like, look, I'm churched out. I know every Bible verse. I'm good to go, mama. I got this.
I know Corinthians.
Yes, I know Corinthians. I know Psalms. I got them down, you know. But with that, you know, becoming a parent, going through, you know, life will make you call on God. Or for me, at least in me, it did, you know. Allah, whoever, you know, Allah is God. But, you know, whoever, whatever your religion is, it'll make you call on whoever it is that you lean into. So if you pray in the trees, it will make you lean on them trees. That's what life does, you know. And so NOAA did that for me to walk in the room to see all these people of faith who show their faith by doing social justice work. That made sense to me. You know, I knew how to walk my path in faith, you know, and it made it really easy for me to do this type of work. And it just opened up this line of clarity for me. And from that, you know, we had a couple of victories. We pushed for a local hire initiative that basically said that 40% of any job that required public dollars, you have to hire people in Nashville to do the work. And it passed overwhelmingly here in Nashville. And I was happy because I was finally part of something that was bigger than me for the masses of Nashville, you know. And every activist organizer knows that feeling, volunteer, when you first get that thing that you know is bigger than yourself and it happens. But I think it was the losses that spurred us to start Stand Up Nashville. The state has stepped in and preempted, which means state interference, what we were trying to do. And I was like, it's going to take more than just us in this NOAA task force. It's going to take a bunch of us, all these like-minded people to get together.
And had you joined SEIU by that time too?
No, not just yet. Mara Lee Albert, shout out to Mara Lee. She was a big member and a part of NOAA, and she also was a organizer and she worked for the union. And she was like, "You're a SEIU member."
Oh, that's right, and I think I got to meet her.
You did. She was like, "You're a SEIU member. You should join your union." You know, and I'm like, "What the hell is a union?" You know, and so yeah, that's when I joined up and became a local proud member of it, and it was amazing because I met all these people. So me and a bunch of like-minded people in 2016, we got together and we started Stand Up Nashville to look at the economic barriers of the city.
When you first decided, because you were, a public servant at Parks and Rec, and then you jumped into community organizing, what made you sort of finally take that leap of faith of like, okay, I'm going to actually go into community organizing now, and I'm going to start Stand Up Nashville? And a lot of folks don't even know what community organizing is in a lot of ways, and you started to talk a little bit about...
I didn't even know this was a thing. I didn't know that, like, this is it could be a job or a career or something. Community organizing was something that I was already doing and had no idea that it was just like that's how you would name it or title it. You know, it was just what you were supposed to do. A lot of people don't know. I was doing this for free. I basically had 2 full-time jobs from the time when I walked in that NOAA meeting from 2015. You know, and then what made me take the leap of faith to actually go full-time and become the executive director of Stand Up Nashville is that it was a humbling experience. The cohort, the people who were in our base, because we'd already passed the Do Better bill, and they were like, let's keep doing this work. There's a need for this in the city. You know, let's turn Stand Up Nashville just from a coalition into a nonprofit, and you're going to be the executive director. Odessa, let's do this. I think it was the feeling of I had the ability to give more and be a better civil servant at this maturity, too. By this time, I'm 32, 33 years old and seeing life from a different perspective. I didn't want to just be reactionary anymore. Y'all understand by that? Like, every time some stuff happened, you know, I was in the streets, you know, like marching, protesting, and that is needed. That's very important. But the same thing kept happening over and over again. And I love my city, and I was starting to feel the responsibility of what it meant to really be transformative versus transactional. And so with that, you know, I wanted to make sure that we were being at the table, proactive and making things happen. That also meant that I wanted to be the best civil servant that I could be. And the only way that I could do that was to leave Parks and Recreation where I had some limitations, you know. It was my job to give recreational services, and I did that. So me trying to fulfill my promise and my love to not just my community, but all of these amazing people from different races and classes that I met who have that same desperation and need. I can't imagine how stressful it is to be an undocumented person here and like all the shit that they receive. Like, these are heroes. Like, I would do anything to save my life and the life of my children. And if that means I got to cross a damn border, I'm crossing the border. That's what you're supposed to do, you know? And for people to be demonized for that is insane, you know? So all those type of things really bothered me, and we started Stand Up Nashville because I wanted to be a voice that could just, like, remove a lot of those barriers. So taking the leap of faith was easy at that point, and it's one of the best things that I've ever done.
Wow. What was it like to take that leap of faith, have faith that it would work out, and then actually end up sitting across a table with one of the richest developers to come to Nashville?
First of all, y'all, when I got promoted to a manager, you know, and they was like, you're going to make $39,000 a year. I'm like, what? $39K? Like, I had to be stereotypical, but I'm going to the store to buy some J's right now. Like, $39K, I'm rich.
Yeah.
I'm rich, you know, so going from that to becoming the executive director of Stand Up Nashville, and when we started Stand Up Nashville, the labor unions threw in some seed money, you know, because we didn't have any money so that I could, like, become the executive director, and we figured out from then. So when they came to me and offered me, they was like, yo, Odessa, we're going to pay you $60. I'm like, 60? Well, yes, let's do 60, you know? So at that point, I am feeling over the moon that I'm making $60,000. I couldn't wait for a bill collector to call me, y'all, because I was gonna answer the phone this time. I could not wait. I'm like, wait till AT&T call me. I'm answering the phone. I got your money, you know. So, the CBA is short for Community Benefits Agreement. If any of y'all don't know what that means, that's okay. It is a private agreement between a developer and an entity like Stand Up Nashville to get things needed for the city. The reason why we had to take that route is because Nashville is a blue city in a red state. So every time we do something, the state hate on us. And they hate on us by doing preemption. That means they say no to whatever you want to do. They can only say no to laws, to legislation. So we decided to be creative and say, we ain't going to do legislation. We'll keep it a private deal and just let them pout. So that's why we did the CBA. Everyone was on board from city leaders, because by this time we've done our due diligence as a city to change some of the Metro Council and the leadership. They came from our base. They wanted to see this happen too. So everyone was on board to get this done.
These are leaders in Nashville City Council that you had helped elect.
And what time frame was this around?
This is 2017 to 2018.
And that's what I thought. And that's around a little bit of when I went and I first met Odessa.
Yeah.
She's doing that fight. Yeah.
So during that time, the Ingram family and Market Street built this thing called the Gulch, in Nashville, this real bougie part of town. It's really nice. I like it. It smells good when you walk through there. They got together with another group that usually build stadiums, and they called themselves Nashville Soccer Holdings. They were going to bring Major League Soccer to Nashville. Now, this is the context that you got to know, okay? 2017, COLA, that stands for Cost of Living Adjustment. Every city employee didn't get their cost of living adjustment. Mind you, I told you, we the it city is getting more expensive to live here. This is like 6th, 7th year in a row we have not gotten a raise. And if we do get like a 1% raise, guess what else goes up? Our insurance premium. So technically, you're not getting a raise at all. They said, we can't give you a raise. We ain't got it, fam. The city broke. We ain't got no money. That happened. That's number one. Second thing that happened, our school superintendent, first African-American superintendent, Sean Joseph, we had at the time, said, I need, I think it was $35 million or something like that, to adequately fund our public school system, which is overwhelmingly Black students and students of color, all right? City said, man, we wish we could do it. We ain't got it, fam. We broke. City ain't got it. We can't do this, all right? That's the second thing. Third thing that happened, they said, we gonna shut down our public hospital. We're going to shut down Metro General, which, of course, it serves a predominantly large African-American community who doesn't have health care for all the different isms that go into that. It's also connected to Meharry Hospital, our medical college. They were like, we ain't got no money. We got to shut down some services. Y'all see a pattern here? The city broke, right? Yet at the end of the year, they could find $275 million to build a soccer stadium? I was offended. I started, that was not okay. Here we are again. And I didn't want to be a part of something happening to me again and us not have a say in it. So we decided to barter for that community benefits agreement. The Ingram family is one of the richest families, if not the richest family in Tennessee. And it was odd because for 9 months, I was fighting for affordable housing with people who made their careers off of printing Bibles. It's like, damn, did you ever crack one open and read it? Like, it was insane to me, some of the things that we were fighting this family over. And that really opened my eyes to, like, the issue is more than just Democratic and Republican, because these are people who voted for Obama. These are people who consider themselves progressives, and they are the barrier in between what is really happening, and that's when it really made me understand that systemic racism unfortunately has become good business policies in this country, and we don't even know it, which makes sense. Hell, the first biggest business in this country was slavery, So, and oppression is part of how people grow wealth, and we have to break that, on both sides of the aisle. So that's what happened. I'm sitting across from the other side of the table. If you added up their salaries, it was probably over $5 million, and here I am sitting with my $60K, happy. On the other side of the table, just trying to get affordable housing, trying to get a daycare for people in a daycare desert. Those are just some of the things that we were fighting for. We did it in a community way. We got the input. For months before we even went to the negotiation table, We surveyed, we asked people, what do you want to see? That's how you're supposed to do it, because if you've ever worked with people, people are headaches, but that's what you're supposed to do to get people to have buy-in. We eventually got to the biggest things that we wanted to see, and we made it happen.
That's organizing.
Yeah.
What did you win? What did you walk out of that meeting with?
People build stadiums because of all the goodies that come with it. So the city was giving them 10 acres of real estate mixed investment land to go along with it. And that's where they get to make the money, right? So they were going to have like 1,000 residential units go up. We wanted 50% of it to be workforce affordable housing. We got 20, which is significant, if you look at other community benefits agreement. So that means about 200 units of workforce housing is going to go back into the urban core of Nashville, which is not happening anywhere else, in the city. We got a 5,000 unit daycare facility that's going to go in on the first floor at a sliding scale. So that people in that community and the workers who are going to be working there have first priority. Also, in that time, every month up until that point, a construction worker had died on the job unnecessarily. So we got responsible contracting language in, and that was very important because that meant that you can't just exploit our people. You can't exploit. There's a lot of Black and brown people who work on construction sites, and people who are undocumented get exploited 24/7, And so we wanted to make sure that didn't happen. Oh, we got a $15.50 minimum wage for the jobs. So anyone who's going to go work at the stadium or work on building that's what you're going to start off at, and it'll escalate from that, So we got a bunch of different things. It's a lot.
And then after that, what did you say to yourself after that led you to be like, all right, I did that. Now I should go change some federal laws. I got what when did that thought enter your mind?
I think the best part of the community benefits agreement was that everyone wanted to see it happen. If any of y'all ever been in the hood, a lot of people don't talk about politics or things at that level, And to walk through my hood, walk in work, and people be like, yo, we gonna get this housing, or I was reading up on this, that was really dope. And I'll never forget the next year, so graduation of 2018, and I always got nervous around graduation time because not everybody's made for college, Guido, but there's no pathway for success for those who don't want to go to college, and we're trying to build that out as well. And I remember a lot of the teens sitting in front of my office, and some of them were stressing, and they were helping each other out, and I'll never forget Mevelyn, one of my kids, telling another kid, don't stress over it. They just got the community benefits agreement. You can go work on that. And I was like, that's the priceless. Okay, we won, Then you fast forward to this damn pandemic. And I think the pandemic was humbling, and we should just admit that, It was a true reflection of who we are, not only as a city, but as a nation. We don't handle crises well whatsoever. And that really made me understand the collective impact of who sits in a congressional seat. Whatever the leadership that we've elected to be at the congressional level here in Nashville, when you drag your feet on stuff, when you vote a certain way, that not only affects us here in Nashville, but affects my homies from across the country. So everyone in LA to the Bay Area, to my friends in Connecticut, New York City, Chicago, Detroit, all the way down to Albuquerque, New Mexico, it has an impact on your life. And at that point, I knew, okay, I get it. I'm overqualified to sit in that seat. I know why we've been missing the mark. And I'm the one that's been on the ground with the rest of my homies and friends that have been organizing to move the needle an inch. And yet we turn that over to leadership to get us across the line, and that doesn't happen. Well, that's on us, and we got to hold ourselves accountable. And I didn't want to let that happen anymore. So I decided to run for Congress.
Wow. I was not expecting to feel re-inspired. Odessa, thank you so much for joining us.
Of course.
Where should folks go to find out more about you, to follow the campaign as it grows over the next year, at least?
Go to all the social media sites if you want to. Odessa for Congress, ODESSA for Congress.com is the website, and check us out. And please donate. Every little dollar helps. Tell a friend. Make sure that they sign up and they donate as well. Do it for Odessa.
The South has something to say.
Yay, yay.
Odessa, have a great afternoon.
All right, good people. Nice to speak with you.
Alex,
Yeah.
this is your fourth election cycle working for a progressive running in a primary. It's your third working specifically for challengers to Democratic incumbents heading into the fourth round. When you think back to what you learned about how to run effective campaigns in Bernie 2016 and what you've learned since then, I'm wondering just what the biggest lesson you've taken away from these cycles have been.
I think that, being flexible and agile has been so crucial, right? Taking in as much information as you possibly can and humbling yourself when what you thought was the way to do something does not work the way that you want, and adapt. And we talk about this all the time, internally, of like primaries have been incredibly effective. And the journey of JD has also been like, when we first started, we endorsed in over 70 races. I'm very proud that we did that. And I wish that we could continue to support dozens of progressives. And that is the dream, right? For us to build the infrastructure to be able to do that. But the reality is that we're not at that place where if we commit to dozens of people, like, we're going to be able to raise you millions of dollars and get you dozens of volunteers and do that stuff. So I think being humble about what we're able to do, so that way our word means something when we tell candidates or when we tell communities that we're going in. I've been humbled in going through from Bernie in 2016 and losing this big presidential-sized race and fighting till the fucking end to get him through California. And, I was one of the few staff that was left in 2016 after they let a lot of people go, to almost not having Justice Democrats be successful because we had to go all in on AOC's race in 2018 because we had lost a lot before then. Like, if we don't take that in and really debrief and decompress and understand how to shift tactics or strategy, then we're going to lose. So I think it's just being, I guess, really open-minded and flexible and agile and trying not to get too hooked on what you think is the right thing because, we're working with human beings, from internally on our team to the communities that we serve to the working class people that we're trying to get into office. And it's really hard work. It's really hard.
But as folks can hear, sounds like you just don't quit through each cycle, after each cycle, and thank you for that, and thank you for joining us on Bloc Party.
Thank you so much, Guido, and everybody on the team for having me on the Bloc. I feel honored.
We couldn't have done it without our team of co-producers. Becca Rose, as always, and Amira Hassan. She was there, a fan favorite. Took a break from talking, though. Our mix engineer is Leslie Gaston Bird. Special thanks, as always, to Amy Westervelt and Michael Catano. Alex, see you on the Bloc.